Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, a very beautiful morning to you, our viewers, wherever you're watching us from, wherever you're reaching us from. And we wish you a very happy Monday and a very happy new week. How was your weekend? I know you can't answer me back, but how was your weekend? Hope you had it very good. And hope you had a very wonderful Sunday too. It's a pleasure to have you again on the show, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is. We bring it to you from where it drops and when it drops. My name is Emmanuel Ujadigele. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. You already know what we do for you here. We bring you insightful newspaper analysis. We bring you engaging interviews. And of course, on the Spring Trends, we tell you who is trending, what is trending, why they are trending, and what people are saying about the who, the what, and the why. And you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook and Instagram at Western Spring Television, on Twitter at WSTV_NG. And you can search for our channel on YouTube at Western Spring Television. And do out to subscribe to us, to our channel, as much as you catch up on all of the episodes of our programs, different exciting programs that we've packaged for you. As usual, I'm not alone in the studio this morning. I have with me I have with me the damsel.
Good morning, viewers. Welcome back from the weekend, and thanks for joining us on the show this morning. I am Timmy Takbaji.
Well, thank you so much for joining us once again on the show. It's the second working week. Is it the second or third working Monday in January? Like I've always said, this January is the fastest January that has ever generated in the history of Januaries, and it's actually very good for those who have spent their December salaries. Now they have hope because January is ending soon in a matter of 15 days. And once again, we'd like to remind you that you could go collect your PVCs.
Yes.
That will be ending on the 29th of this month. It was supposed to end on the 22nd, but the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has extended that by 1 week. So you should get, do you have your PVC ready?
Of course, very ready.
Did you get it because you want to vote or because you want to jackpot from the country?
Of course, for the purpose
of voting. All right, we'll start arresting those who are getting PVCs and what other documents just so that they can leave us. Well, we'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you the papers this morning. Well, welcome back to the show this morning. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Time to go straight to the papers and see what is being said or what is making the rounds on the faces of Nigerian dailies. We begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper this morning, Monday, the 16th of January, 2023. The banner headline is a very disturbing one. Says bank borrowing from CBN rises 260% to 21.87 trillion naira. Lenders frequent central bank lending window post-COVID-19 as business activities pick up. Very, very interesting but disturbing headline there. That's about the size of our budget for this year.
Yeah,
that's how much banks have borrowed from the CBN.
It goes to show that the COVID-19's physical effect on us is not the only bad thing that came with COVID-19. Our economy was badly affected by COVID-19, and we can see the effects even till now. We've not really bounced back from that time. And people are still borrowing, the bank is still lending, and it's really sad that we have the borrowing growing to the tune of 21.87 trillion naira. It's really sad indeed.
It is true that COVID-19 wreaked havoc in the economic sector and the economy generally of the world. And of course, the countries like Nigeria, developing countries, were worst hit by that, But as long as some of these loans are payable, can be paid, and they were used to service businesses, we hope that it doesn't really cripple the economy as a whole. Well, below that story, you see pictures from the Armed Forces Remembrance Day that held yesterday in could see a picture of President Muhammadu Buhari laying a wreath. Also, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo laying another wreath there, and a photo of the ceremonial guards march past there. But the headline says, "Widows demand benefits as federal government honors fallen soldiers." That's on page 44. We did make that remark on this on the show some time ago. Yes, when we read that some money had been released for the widows, and we were asking who is in charge. Yes, will it get to them, or will it get to them? Yes. And now they are making the demands themselves. I think it's really within their rights to make such demands. It is,
but it doesn't have to come to that they will have to demand. The federal government should be up and doing, should be up to the task to, pay their benefits. And then the soldiers should be honored by taking care of their widows, their children, and everyone involved. So it's very important.
Well, for all the fallen soldiers, we pray that their souls continue to find peace.
Yes.
And we thank all of the members of the armed forces for their service. Thank you for keeping Nigeria safe and secure. Thank you for, even in the face of serious hostilities from insurgents and bandits and other criminal elements, for doing your job and for rising up to the occasion. We pray that God continues to keep them, and that the government continues to do everything to support them to carry out their duties. And away from that story, Google unveils portal for 2023 elections. Page 36 of the Punch newspaper. But sharing news, you think?
Yes, it is. It is. It still goes to show that the international community is really watching. Many people watching, to see what the outcome of the 2023 elections will be. And, also showing support one way or the other. So it's very, it's a good news.
All right. Well, page 4 and 5, terrorists lynch Niger priest, abduct 5 Katsina worshippers. NBA 6 constitution amendment, independent candidacy. Well, that terrorist lynching the what's it called now? The priest, Catholic priest, was quite disheartening yesterday when I read the story. What happened around 3 a.m. He was in the house about around 3 a.m. when his house was set on fire, and he burned to death in that particular unfortunate incident. We need to stop all of these killings. We need to stop all of this. We've been saying it. I'm sure it's been said also across all media spaces that this has to stop.
It indeed has to stop.
There is no rationale for it. There's nothing you can say to justify it, no matter the amount, the size, the weight of the grievance
or whatever.
This is not justifiable. It must stop.
It must.
And we also hope those who have been abducted will be rescued and or released, and then reconciled or reunited with their family members. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper this morning, 42 COVID-19 infections recorded. Federal government rules out restrictions. Page 20, as usual, until it gets worse.
This is very disturbing. I mean, seeing that the cases are rising and government is ruling out restrictions, it's really disturbing. We don't know why. And we urge the federal government to probably, rethink on this. Yeah.
Well, we hope the federal government listens and rethinks, not ruling out restrictions and then bringing back some of these measures. They do not have to be extremely strict, but just something to safeguard the people.
But it just might be because of the elections, and that will show some sort of selfishness on the part of the federal government. Because
that will mean your political gatherings will suffer. Yeah. Well, away from that story, oil earnings rise 363 billion naira in 3 months. That's on page 28. Oil earnings rise 363 billion naira in 3 months. Well, sharing news, hope that it translates to good things for the economy.
Exactly. We hope that it boosts the economy, really.
Well, still on the Punch newspaper, 16 PDP supporters killed, 83 injured in crash. Pages 2 and 4 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And just before we leave that paper, government-owned plant dishes out dangerous chemicals, threatens residents' health. That's a Punch investigation special report. You can read up on that story. Yes. Yeah, very disturbing, I must say. You can't continue to endanger the lives of people. Yes, because you want to provide or produce things for them.
This is the federal government, setting rules for all the people, for private plants.
Businesses, yes.
I know, exactly. And then we're finding that it's the federal government-owned plants, or the government-owned plantations, that is, endangering the life of people. And the government really needs to look into that.
Well, that's all there is on the Punch newspaper this morning, Monday, 16th, 2023, January.
All right, moving on quickly to the Nation newspaper. The banner headline says, Tinubu rallies APC leaders, candidates for elections. Ex-Lagos governor, governorship, National Assembly standard bearers brainstorm. I think this is one of the things we'll keep saying building up to the elections, since we have had from the INEC that there won't be, cancellation or postponement in any form. So I think it's good for them that they keep brainstorming and, keep strategizing and re-strategizing towards the success of the elections from their party.
Yes, well, they'll keep coming up with different things. Politicians are known to be quite crafty and cunning, if you like. But what matters is that they live up to the promises. For so long, they just promise and then we don't hold them to account. And that's because of our electoral system, the way it allows them to just, make promises. We've often said on the show that when politicians make promises, the people should be interested in the how and not just the what that is being promised. Now, the how do you intend to bring about your promises? But because there's really no room, no platform for interfacing with these politicians, you barely get to ask. Politicians shun debates, they shun town hall meetings and all of that, except when it's convenient and comfortable for them. So it's just like that. We just hope that they keep to their promises.
Exactly. Right, just above that, we have Buhari, governors, others salute fallen heroes. Youths kill vigilante heads. It's still talking about the celebration of the armed forces, Remembrance Day. And then youths kill, village head. That's on page 26 of the paper. Now, just below the nameplate, kidnappings. Amotekun firms up security in Southwest. Kidnappers abduct cleric in Ekiti, threatening to kill ocean farmers. We're great. I mean, this is great that Amotekun firms up security in the Southwest. It goes to show that while we were clamoring for local policing or state policing, and Amotekun was inaugurated, we can see that Amotekun is really doing a good job here in the local states. And it's really good that they are trying to firm up security, especially in the forests, where we have this, bandits lurking and keeping their victims hostage.
Well, it'll be interesting to see that they're threatening to kill Osun farmers, because we said it last week that you don't expect farmers to have 100 million naira that are being demanded of them. And just yesterday we heard that a 51-year-old woman was kidnapped around, I think, technical area, Shobo, around last week. Some other persons were kidnapped around Bogon Road, So these issues should be addressed. As much as security is being firmed up, they should be addressed very much early.
For the necessary quarters. Now, CBN's credit card takes off, and that's on page 26 as well of the paper.
Well, that story is quite interesting because the CBN is coming up with a card that will compete with the already existing cards, as a credit card, not a debit card now. And it will be interesting to see how that goes, if some of the bottlenecks or some of the issues around it would have been cleared before takeoff. Well, that's taken off already, but let's see how that goes there.
Above the nameplates, Auditor General fails to publish 2020 report, submission overdue. Wow. The Auditor General failing to publish 2020 report is quite disturbing. I mean, it's supposed to be his duty, and they're saying here that submission is overdue. I wonder why some of these officials are not living up to their responsibilities, and they're failing to do what they're supposed to do. It's still disturbing. And it goes to show that our leadership somehow is failing, or failing, or has
Well,
failed?
in a country where the accountant general is being investigated for 90 billion naira fraud, where the finance ministry and humanitarian affairs ministry had some back and forth over who padded what, it's not surprising. This is 2023. There is no 2020 report. I mean, from the office of the auditor general, he's supposed to be able to detect loopholes and help government plug leakage of revenues. Very disturbing one, very disappointing, I must say, but very, very disturbing one. And the government should take it up. You shouldn't have, because this is January of 2023, and I wonder if we even have a 2021 or 2022 report. Very sad thing.
Very sad indeed. Petrol subsidy removal will unlock 11 trillion naira, expert reveals spending. Well, people keep debating that the petrol subsidy should be removed. And it's saying that if it is removed, it would give us about 11 trillion naira.
Well, a lot of experts, actually, depending on who you ask, they tell you about subsidy should be removed. Some will say it should be kept, But some persons will say that it should be removed. Some will say that it should be kept. But what I think personally is whatever is good for the economy should be done. And if it's going to unlock this amount of money, I don't think that we should stick with it. Then we should use it, right? So if we're unlocking 11 trillion naira, so we can now channel it into something else. And I hope that works for us.
Yeah. All right. 12 abducted Igbo train passengers freed. Catholic priest burnt alive, another shot. Is another disturbing news, well, one is disturbing, the other is not. The abducted Igbo train passengers are freed. Glory to God for that. And Catholic priest burnt alive, another shot is disturbing indeed. Please, the nation should do something about the security. The federal government should do something about the security of the nation.
Well, the federal government, the local police,
Yes.
the people of the community, some persons have rightly said that these criminals are not strangers. They are not people who come from outside. We know them. They know themselves. But the fault is usually with government not being proactive but being reactive. We should not allow things get to certain levels before we start, tackling them. So good to see that those passengers have been freed, but we've not been told at what cost. There's also some other story there that's not been brought up. But then the Catholic priest who's been burnt alive, we pray for the repose of his soul, and we pray that these things just stop. They just have to stop. That's all there is to it.
All right. Konwa hopeful of salary payment. AGF requests members' details. As the Accountant General of the Federation requesting members' details. Well, this is a faction of, the ASU that has, that derailed from the association's initial,
Yes, and that happened during the seemingly unending strike of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. At some point, the government felt, okay, let's ratify this breakaway version, this breakaway union, so that we can, I saw it as looking for a union that they can puppeteer and use as their lap dogs. But then now they have also begun to feel the heat, the ineptitude of the, what's it called now? The ineptitude of the government. If by now they've not been paid, well, welcome to the club.
All right, NDLEA, this the bottom strip of the paper. NDLEA busts another tramadol cartel, seizes over 5 billion naira opioids in warehouse. So that's another great news, and the NDLEA is still impressing.
Well, we'll move on quickly from that paper now to the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. So many stories on that paper. One of them not particularly cheering, but let's start with the story that has to do with yesterday's event. 2023, military pledges defense for democracy. It has come to stay, says the CDS. That's one rider. The next rider, Buhari, Osinbajo, CJN governors hail fallen heroes on Remembrance Day. Widows of fallen heroes lament hardship. Wike comments Buhari's efforts in defeating Boko Haram. There's a picture there of the president and vice president, senate president, and Speaker of the House of Assembly, and CJN Ariwola standing there signing some condolence registers or something there. And you can see perhaps one of the widows of the fallen soldiers in chairs there. We hope that the sacrifices of our husband and other members of the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Armed Forces that are falling by the wayside, either due to enemy gunfire or by natural causes, that they find repose and that the government does what is supposed to do for them. Well, interesting to see that the military is pledging to defend democracy, because over time, yesterday's event actually stems from the military's incursion into politics, 1966 or thereabout. All of the coups and the civil war that occurred between 1967 and 1970 there. So now the military is saying that we don't want to go that route. We're not going to do that. The democracy has come to stay. And the Chief of Defense Staff, Lucky Rabot, there giving assurances that they will be defending democracy. Bear in mind that the CDS has said recently that there's been some pressure from some quarters to tamper or interfere with the elections. But it's good that it's continuously reiterated that, look, we're not going to be compromised or compromise the process. The widows of fallen heroes lament hardship. We said that earlier. The government should come to their aid, give them what is due them, and ensure that they are not left hanging and that they are not left at the mercy of what is around them. But from that story, which is the banner headline, we move downwards at the bottom strip of the paper. Bandits burn Catholic priest, shoot another in Niger. That's a recurring story this morning on all the national dailies. You can see that story there, very sad one. And at the bottom strip, a fake Sharia court judge remanded over 10.6 million fraud in Kano. Well, if the judiciary is being impersonated, you can just imagine what becomes of other ministries, departments, and agencies of the government, and what becomes of other arms of government itself. You know, some integrity report came out last week by the ICPC, and there were some concerns about the ethics and integrity of even the Supreme Court itself. And so this fake Sharia court judge remanded. I mean, how long has he been operating for? How has he been able to do it? What courtyard has he been operating from? You know, these are questions that must be asked. And it's quite interesting that a fake judge is remanded by an actual magistrate or an actual judge. Well, NCDC confirms 42 new cases of COVID-19. That's on page 6. Zamfara, NSCDC arrests POS operator hired by bandits. Page 26 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And just below the nameplate, Tinubu appoints Jega Abdulaziz media aides. You can read more about that on page 11. And 16 die, 83 injured in truck accident, conveying PDP supporters in Plateau. Is coming from the FRC. Very sad one there. Very, very sad. 16 dying, 83 injured in a truck conveying PDP supporters. I often wonder if the FRSC or other important parties, the very, very necessary ones, do not come to the rescue of those people as soon as they hear of these, accidents. If they had got there, early enough, probably these people would have been rescued. More would have been rescued rather than having them die. Well, we must also commend them rather for doing what they did. I'm sure that that accident may have happened somewhere far from where they were, maybe from an outpost of the FRC, and before they get there. It also speaks to the fact that we must be careful on our roads. Truck drivers, bus drivers, you do not own the roads. You do not own the lives of those you're carrying. You are not a cat with 9 lives, You must respect the sanctity and sanctity nature of life, knowing that it doesn't have any duplicate. If it's gone, it's gone. So if you shouldn't put other people in that situation. Well, pray that their souls find rest. They of course, those who have died now will not live to see the Nigeria of their dreams. And even if their candidate emerges winner of the election, they will not be there to witness it. And that shows that if you want to be alive to enjoy the fruit of your labor, you have to be careful. And the other story there is unclaimed dividends in tier 1 banks increased by over 5 billion naira on page 19 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And just before we leave that paper, we must remind you of the children that are still in captivity, the students that are still in captivity. 11 schoolgirls of Federal Government College, Benin Yauri, have now spent 580 days in captivity, and one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, has now spent 552 days in captivity. That's all on the Daily Trust this morning.
All right, moving on quickly to The Guardian. The banner headline says Nigeria loses 8 trillion naira to forex arbitrage in 3 years. Now the writers, realistic exchange rate will add 4 trillion naira to Federation account in 2023, says Yusuf, ex-CBN director. It's not intervention, but outcome of regulatory control. 3 years after rate harmonization, still illusion. 3 years after rate harmonization, still illusion. Forex inflow dwindle as dollar demand pressure continues. Now that's still another disturbing news on Nigeria's loss.
Nigeria is not really doing well on the foreign exchange market. Our currency keeps taking hits. There's always sabotage in the parallel, the markets, the forex market, the black market dealers, the parallel market as they call them. They've been given some really tough time to Nigeria's forex, and it's sad that we still don't have a harmonized rate. Very, very, very sad. 3 years after, we hope that the government will do what it should do to stabilize that forex exchange, that forex markets there. Losing 8 trillion naira, I imagine what 8 trillion naira would do to the economy in 3 years, and that would have really helped. And a realistic exchange rate will add 4 trillion naira to Federation account in 2023. Yeah, that's true. And we should do everything to ensure that we get that money, we get the bag, and not fumble it along the line.
Right. Just above the banner headline below the nameplate, Buhari Osinbajo lyrics to mark Armed Forces Remembrance Day. That's on page 4. We've been talking about the Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
Yes.
Bakare calls for new breed of leaders. I think this is what we need at this time. New breed of leaders, but leaders that would transform the economy and other sector of the nation.
I saw that video yesterday. It was about 15 points of his message that he read out. And number 10 on that was him calling for an end to political assassinations. Number 11 was talking about looking for doing away with the entitlement mentality to political power. And he was also talking about doing away with contesting over and over again. If people are not voting you in, it means that they don't see you as, who they want to represent them. You should step aside, give opportunity to others. We need fresh blood, people with fresh ideas. In his endorsement letter on the 1st of January, Chief Obasanjo did mention that the old model cannot handle new model problems. New times should call for a modern approach, modern approaches to solving problems. So we need new breed of leaders. We need a breath of fresh air. We need to stop recycling leaders across board, from the local government level to the federal level.
Yes. Trim 228.1 billion naira National Assembly budget of face suit. Serap threatens Lawan Gbajabiamila. Well, The Guardian today is giving some, good warnings, some good news and all that. The Serap saying that the National Assembly should cut down on their own budget.
That's not going to happen. It's not. The Serap can go to court all they like. The lawmakers will not reduce their own budget. It's not just going to happen.
But then they keep telling the federal government to cut down on other things. but they would not budge.
Well, it's self-gratification. You know, it's greed, it's wickedness, it's all shades of wrong. But we are here in the country. We're here in Nigeria. They will not trim me down, and that's the fact. If they trim me down, then I stand corrected. But as of now, I stand to be corrected. They will not trim me down. So no matter how much threats they face from Serap or any other body, they will not trim me down. And that's how it's going to be.
That's disturbing indeed. Group expresses concern over Kanu's worsening health.
Nnamdi Kanu has been in the news,
Yes.
so much recently
Lately.
about his health. Some have accused the supporters of trying to play politics with it. And the supporters are saying, look, the man is sick. His health is deteriorating. We're not playing politics. Allow him to go get treatment. But it's up to the government to do the right thing.
Yeah, and the right thing would be, getting him medical, help as soon as possible. Well, we'll move downwards to the bottom strip of the paper. Obaseki visits 12 rescued kidnapped victims, hails security officers. Nigeria's energy transition marred by debt, subsidies, stranded oil.
Well, you find okay?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, commend Obaseki, who has visited and rescued kidnapped victims, and has also, hailed the security officers who were involved in securing their rescue.
Well, we commend the security officers who were involved in rescuing those kidnapped victims. We hope that others are rescued and the perpetrators are brought to book. It's not just about rescuing victims, it's also ensuring that those who perpetrate such heinous act know that there is no room for such anomaly, and when they try it, when they do it, they will be found and justice will be served. But that's all on the papers this morning on Morning Spring, where we've been bringing you some of the stories, some of the recurring headlines. Once again, congratulations to all members of the armed forces on the Armed Forces Remembrance Day that held yesterday. And we pray for the repose of the souls of those who have left us, and for those who are still with us and are doing their utmost best to protect Nigeria's sovereignty and to keep us all safe so that we can go to bed with our two eyes closed. We say a very big thank you, and we hope that you continue to find the strength and courage to decimate those who threaten Nigeria's integrity and sovereignty. We also pray that the government remembers you in all of their policies, and that they do right by you, and that all your benefits and emoluments and remuneration are given to you, and that your family members are protected and are given their dues when you do leave them behind. Well, that's all on the newspaper review segment. We'll be back with the interview segment to give you a perspective on last week's event at the Osun Election Petition Tribunal. The parties in that suit filed by the All Progressives Congress and former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola have now adopted their final written addresses, and the tribunal has reserved a date for judgment. So all parties, all supporters, every resident of Osun State and stakeholders are waiting with bated breath to see where the pendulum will swing. When we come back from this break, we'll bring in our guest and have discussions around that particular incident. To stay with us.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Àtótó arére.
Kò ṣeé má gbọ́ ìròyìn.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
We must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring.
Western Spring.
And Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back to the program. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we've been bringing you what is as it is, from where it is and where it drops and when it drops. And of course, it's time to speak to our guest on the interview segment of the program. We did tell you that we're going to be having conversations around some of the issues that have occurred in Osun State in recent times. On Friday, the Osun State Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Osogbo, the state capital, admitted the written addresses of the parties involved in litigation. That's the petition filed by the All Progressives Congress (APC) and former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola, challenging the victory of the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Ademola Adeleke, in the July 16th, 2022 election. We have in the studio joining us to make sense of these issues and give us some perspective, some legal angles to it, a legal practitioner and a chieftain of the People's Democratic.
The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love from fanatical supporters of his...
Okay, Ogunshola joins us live on phone this morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, it's good to have you two gentlemen on the show. So let's get down to business this morning. It's been a long journey from August down to January 13th when the final addresses were adopted. How was the journey for you and the other members of the legal team for the respondent?
Well, for us, we have never been perturbed for once, and you see that since Senator Ademola Adeleke assumed the mantle of leadership, there has never been any distraction whatsoever. And it's because we have analyzed the whole situation, the whole matter before the tribunal, and we have seen that it is an empty shell, and it's not a hard nut to crack at all, and like I said, it's an empty shell. Immediately after the declaration of the results and announcement of the winner, the APC filed a petition in courts. They premised it on 3 grants, but the 3 grants, grant 1 is about qualification, grant 2 is about majority of lawful votes, that's with the term overvoting. Grant 3 is about non-compliance. But I will subsume grant 2 and 3 into 1. Let's call it overvoting general so that people will understand. While grant 1 is about qualification. The issue of qualification they are talking about 2 things about the qualification aspect. They are saying Senator Ademola Adeleke does not have the minimum educational requirement to contest the office of the governor of Osun State. The second aspect is that he forged his academic credentials, which is submitted to INEC, on the ground that the degree certificate is submitted came after 24 days. That's their own position, that his degree came after 24 days when he got a diploma, which is an O-level equivalent. So that is the second aspect of the forgery. The third aspect of the forgery is that he earlier submitted a forged certificate to INEC in 2018. And that was why they requested that the form he submitted to INEC in 2018 is from CF001. It used to be from CF001 before 2022. Now in 2022, it is now from EC9. So they are saying basically that from EC9, which is submitted to INEC in the 2022 governorship or governorship election, there were forged credentials, and that it did not meet the minimum educational requirement, and that in 2018 in his form CF001 he earlier submitted a forged certificate to INEC. While in the other angle they are saying that there was overvoting. Let me go to the issue of qualification first.
So before we allow you to explain, let's get to Barrister Ogunshola. Barrister, how has it been for you and your legal team, the petitioners, that's the first and second, the APC and former governor Oyetola? How has the journey been for you so far, up until when the final addresses were adopted?
I would say so far, so good. We feel we have been able to put before the tribunal sufficient evidence to declare our candidate as the winner of the governorship election held in Osun State on 16th July 2022.
All right, so let me come back to Mr. Abioye. He was going to explain something. There are some issues. Some reports have it that there has been a ruling on the certificate issue before, particularly that of 2018. Is it still tenable in law?
Well,
was there any ruling?
It isn't a rumor at all. A court judgment that is still subsisting cannot be a rumor. And it is not just a judgment, it's a judgment in rem. And in law, when we say a judgment is a judgment in rem, it's a judgment that binds the whole world. Whether you are a party or you are not a party to that suits, it binds the whole world. And what do we mean by that? In 2018, some members of the APC went to court and they challenged Senator Ademola Adeleke on the basis of the testimonial which he attached to his Form CF001. The testimonial bears at the Muslim Grammar School. Senator Ademola Adeleke actually attended the Muslim Grammar School between 1975 and 1981. And he was given a testimonial when he wanted to contest election in 2018, at least to show that he is educated up to school cert level. As a lawyer, I don't have to submit my degree certificate. I have a diploma in education from ABU Zaria. I don't have to submit it. I can only submit my WAEC certificate, and that is enough. I don't even have to submit my WAEC certificate. All I need to do is that I attended Christ African Church Grammar School, Oshogbo, between so period, and that is enough. So, Senator Ademola Adeleke, in order to show that, I actually attended the Muslim Grammar School, went for a testimony, and he was given a testimonial in 2018. For goodness sake, he completed his secondary school education in 1981. He was given a testimonial in 2018. That testimonial was at the Muslim Grammar School, at the Muslim High School. At the Muslim Grammar School, it used to be at the Muslim Grammar School, is now at the Muslim Grammar School. They now made that an issue, that at the Muslim Grammar School was the school Adeleke attended, but not at the Muslim High School. And these things are these two schools they are not even two schools. It's the same school. It's just a matter of change in name. They made that an issue, and the court resolved it in favor of Senator Ademola Adeleke.
Up until up to the Court of Appeal or Supreme?
Yes, up to the Court of Appeal. There was a further appeal to the Supreme Court, and they withdrew the appeal at the Supreme Court, and the appeal was dismissed. So that means, and there was no further appeal to that. And it's not just one judgment. There was one that emanated here in Oshogbo, which ended at the Court of Appeal, Akure. Another one was instituted at the Federal High Court, at the FCT High Court in Abuja, and that one too ended at the Court of Appeal, Abuja, in which the Court of Appeal Abuja referred to the judgment of the Court of Appeal Akure that judgment has settled the status of Senator Ademola Adeleke as being qualified, that since it was not disputed that he actually attended that school, to the extent that the principal of that school came to testify that in their record Ademola Adeleke was their student between 1975 and 1981, that there were errors in the testimonial they gave to him by putting Oshu State, putting the date 1981. But the principal came to explain that it was just an error. That does not mean that Adeleke was not a student of that school. And so that could not mean forgery. And the Court of Appeal held that, yes, that was not forgery at all, since it was not disputed that Ademola Adeleke actually attended that school. So that settled that. Now, as regards the issue of whether he forged or not, they actually summoned WAEC. And WAEC came to testify that Ademola Adeleke enrolled for WAEC and actually sat for WAEC in 1981. And whether he passed, whether he did not pass, that has settled the issue of whether he is actually educated up to school certificate level. So they brought that issue again as ground one of their petition. And by virtue of the decision of the Court of Appeal and by virtue of the principle of law, estoppel, they cannot reopen that case again. It's a complete bar to them. More so, those who instituted that action, particularly the one at the FCT High Court, were members of the APC. In the originating summons they filed, they attached their membership card as members of the APC. So that judgment binds the APC. Whether or not the APC was a party to that suit, the fact that it's even declared, it has even been declared as a judgment in rem, makes it a complete bar against anybody in the whole world to challenge the status of Senator Ademola Adeleke as being eminently qualified to contest the governorship of Oshu State. That is as far as the issue of his educational qualification up to school start level is concerned. The second aspect is forgery.
The forgery, the degree, 24 days and all of that. But Barrister Ogunshola, like Mr. Abiy has said now, if there is a subsisting court judgment in realm, like he said, why did your party still make that a basis of your petition?
I'm happy that Hashim mentioned the fact of the case as it were. The issue involved in those cases were the testimony of Senator Ademola Adeleke. True testimonial, there was a reference letter and the testimonial. But in this particular one, in 2018, a certificate was attached to the form filled for the nomination of Senator Adeleke. The question is, where did he get that particular certificate? That's one. Secondly, in this particular contest, Senator Ademola Adeleke did not attach that certificate to his nomination form, the one he attached in 2018. That's the second issue. The third issue is that a diploma was said to have been obtained from Penn University and Penn High School, and that particular diploma was said to have been the basis for admission to obtain a BSc in criminal justice or whatever. We are challenging the authenticity of those three certificates. And these issues were never involved in any case. There has never been any case on me instituted by any member of APC or by anybody in Nigeria. Those are the clarifications I want to make.
All right, Barrister, if Mr. Hashim here is saying that at least if we don't know of any other one, we know the testimonial. If he is saying that there was a mistake on the other one and it was maybe corrected, or the principal came out to say that it was a mistake, why are you still making an issue out of it?
What I'm trying to say is this: when you go for a case, you have series of facts. You have a string of facts. The issue of testimonial is not the only issue in this world. What I'm saying in essence is that in 2018, there was a certificate, not testimonial, that was attached. Where did he get that particular certificate? WAEC certificate. They have to answer question on me.
Is that the WAEC certificate that WAEC came to court to defend?
Thank you very much. Yes, that was what WAEC. You see, I don't want to sound immodest. I want to say that I want to implore Mr. Ogunshola to go back, Chief Ogunshola, I'm sorry, to go back and read their petition again very well, because the issue they have made out of the educational qualification of Senator Ademola Adeleke are three issues. One, that he attached forged certificate.
Yes.
Two, that the degree certificate and the diploma certificate from Penn Foster College were forged documents. Two.
Yes.
The three is that he has not shown that he is educated up to school certificate level. And you know, I've broken that down now. I've responded to him with regards to the testimonial, with regards to the WAEC certificate, that WAEC came to testify in court to vindicate Senator Ademola Adeleke.
Not that WAEC issue certificate.
WAEC, yes, now that he sat for WAEC. Can you show us the WAEC certificate? You have not made an issue out of it.
For the exam, does it not stand to reason
as a
that
status,
you'll be given a certificate?
You do not obtain any grade in any certificate. You don't have any certificate.
Well, that is to you. So then you have WAEC there. You did not bring WAEC. That is one. They did not bring WAEC to the tribunal. But in the case at the FCT High Court, which ended up at the Court of Appeal, WAEC came and brought the ledger. They brought the spreadsheet, and they said they actually sat for WAEC. That is one. Secondly, the issue of testimonial, the principal came to clarify it, that they couldn't have inserted Osun State in 1988, that it was an error because Osun State was not yet created in 1988. If I go back to my school now, today, and I want to obtain, for example, my primary school, when I finished primary school, Osun State was not yet created. My primary school is not even there again now. That's my primary school. So if I want to get anything from my primary school now, assuming the primary school is there now, which I did not get in the past. So, and they check their record and they actually see that, oh, Ashimi Abioye actually attended this school. I think they will have to give me something to show that I actually attended that school. And it will be Osun State, not Oyo State. So that was what happened there. And they made it an issue which has been settled. That is like wanting to eat your vomit. Because you earlier vomited this in the past, you want to eat it again. This tribunal will not allow them. That is about the issue of forgery and all that. Now the issue of getting a diploma certificate, which is the basis of the degree as claimed by them. Senator Ademola Adeleke clearly explained that the Penn Foster diploma was not the basis of his degree. He was admitted into Jacksonville University in the US in that same 1981. Using the school is secondary school cumulative grade from Form 1, Form 2, that's how they will grade you. Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, that is the cumulative school grade. Then plus ACT and SAT, you know this thing, you know this procedure. And that was what he used in gaining admission into Jacksonville University. He left Jacksonville University. He's been in and out of school. He left Jacksonville University and transferred his admission to Atlanta Metropolitan College in 1988. And he has been in and out of school too for business before he eventually finished school in 2019. Now, when you raise the issue that he forged his certificate, he brought documents from Jacksonville University. He brought documents from Atlanta Metropolitan College to the extent of bringing the transcripts. And all these things were tendered before the tribunal. You never challenged it. You never brought anyone from Jacksonville University. You never brought anyone from Atlanta Metropolitan College to say that Ademola Adeleke was never their student. Penn Foster diploma is like me now as a lawyer. I did not study science in school. And maybe have seen a course that I want to read, that is science based. And I know I go back to write an O-level exam having some science subject now. Someone will now be telling me that my O-level is the basis of my LLB in law. That how will it be possible for me to get an LLB before my O-level? That's what they are saying in this regard. That Penn Foster diploma was evaluated by the Federal Ministry of Education as an O-level equivalent, and that school actually exists in US, and that they have reckoning with the Federal Ministry of Education in Nigeria here. That Atlanta Metropolitan College Certificate 2 College is it's a university that is reckoned with here in Nigeria. What is more about that? So now you have not brought anything out of, and that is that is the noises they have been making all over. That's why I've said that it is an empty shell. They have nothing to gain out of that. It is just to make some noises. And I will tell you that I am a politician. Chief Ogunshola is a politician. We know how we play our politics. Is it just to play some politics of sentiment that the person you have elected as the governor of Osun State does not have the minimum educational requirement, is a forger and all that? And the court has cleared him of all that. Those issues that have been laid to rest, the only one that has not been laid to rest is the issue that his diploma certificate was coming 24 days before his degree, and that diploma was what he used in gaining admission into Atlanta Metropolitan College, which is never. The two certificates, the diploma certificate and the Atlanta Metropolitan College certificate, are independent of each other. We have clearly explained that to them. They are still making issue out of that. Yet they did not bring anybody. The only witness they called with respect to that was Mr. Razak Adeosun, the immediate past special advisor, chieftaincy affairs to Governor Ademola to former Governor Oyetola. He came, they asked him, they put questions to him. He was sweating in the witness box. They put questions to him. Have you ever attended the Atlanta Metropolitan College? He said no. Are you a staff of Penn Star Diploma College? He said no. How did you know that this document was forged? He said yes, he knew that it was forged. Okay, have you written to this school to confirm that this document was forged? He said no. So how can you tell me that forgery is a serious allegation? You can't just allege. He who alleges must prove. And it is not just proof, it is proof beyond reasonable doubt.
All right, Chief Ogushola, are you truly playing politics as claimed by Mr. Bioye? Are you truly playing politics? Do you have substantial evidence to prove that?
The tribunal will have to bet that. They have stated their own position, we have stated our own. We have put sufficient evidence before the tribunal to show that all these certificates being granted around by Senator Adeleke were actually not obtained by him.
Well, they relied on
the tribunal to decide whether our position is correct or is not correct. We don't assume that they evaluate and come to conclusion.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, the first day I saw the petition, when we were having discussion, you know, we will have to discuss, analyze the case before you start putting something on paper. I said there is a Supreme Court decision that these people are looking at, and that is Ali and Haba. Because, you know, I contested in 2019, and I did a case in which I raised the allegation of forgery or whatever. Forgery has too many facets. Forgery against the contestant from the APC. Then I lost the election petition, and I relied on that case, Sali and Abba. So I said, these people are looking at Sadi and Abba. It's a Supreme Court decision. In that Supreme Court decision, the Supreme Court said, if you fill your form from CFO1, your electoral form, and you inserted in that form any false information, it amounted to forgery. That's what the Supreme Court decided in that case, and that's the case they are relying on now. And what happened in Sali and Abba was that the man had earlier been indicted by a tribunal in the past that he actually forged. The school he claimed that he attended was a polytechnic. The polytechnic wrote that he was never their student, that they did not issue that certificate. Was that not enough indictment? Now he wanted to contest another election. He filled his form. There is a column. If you, I don't know whether, tell me whether you are contesting one day. If you, there is a column they will put, have you ever submitted a false certificate to INEC? So he now put no. That person put no. Meanwhile, he had earlier been indicted. He had earlier been found to have forged a certificate, and the Supreme Court said, on the basis of the fact that you put no, meanwhile you had earlier been indicted, that amounted to forgery again, and he was disqualified. What I'm saying is that is the case they are relying on. Senator Ademola, that case does not apply to Senator Ademola Adeleke in any respect. Senator Ademola Adeleke has never been indicted by any court. The only court they took him to was the court who vindicated him. That's one. Secondly, the school he attended never wrote that he had earlier forged. They are now saying that he should have put in the column where they said, have you ever submitted forged certificates to INEC, that he should have put yes, because he earlier submitted a testimonial to INEC which was held to be forged. They have never supplied the authority or that case where Senator Ademola Adeleke had been held to have forged a certificate. In fact, that testimonial, the court said that the error in the testimonial had been cleared by the principal. So what forgery are you talking about again? And I've told you that the basis of their, what's it called? That's a forged diploma certificate, that how could he have earned or obtained degree in 24 days, that the diploma certificate was what he used in gaining admission to Atlanta Metropolitan College, which we have settled as well, that the two documents do not relate to each other. You know, they insisted that INEC should bring his Form CFO1. They made it an issue. The whole world knew that, oh, they were hiding a delicate certificate to documents. Now they brought INEC brought the Form CFO1, the original file. The court admitted it as exhibit file. Now, when they brought the file, what they wanted to establish was that as at 1981, that Ademola Adeleke said he entered Jacksonville University in the US, there was nothing that could qualify him to gain admission into Jacksonville as at 1981. They were saying that he submitted a NECO certificate, or he submitted whatever. They never brought any issue out of that. No NECO certificate in that file. And they made that an issue to the whole world. So that is their way. That is their way. So that is as far as the issue of forgery is concerned. I can tell you confidently here that the judgment of the Court of Appeal, that there are two judgments of the Court of Appeal, but one declared the other one as a judgment in rem, which binds the whole world, including Chief Ogunshola. They cannot raise it against Senator Ademola Adeleke again. That is as far as the issue of forgery is concerned.
All right.
We'll go to the other aspect.
Yes, Chief Ogunshola, let's move on from the certificate now on forgery allegations and talk about your party's arrival at overvoting. How did you conclude that there were overvoting in, when you initially submitted your petition, 749 polling units? How did you reach that conclusion? What did you rely on? What experts did you use? How did you get to that point?
Well, do we need to use a record when we have the Rivers report to clearly show that there were more votes that were actually awarded? Well, let me start by saying that on the 17th day of July 2022, the INEC declared Senator Ademola Adeleke as the winner of the election. According to the INEC, he said our party stored 245,210 votes, while PDP stored 400,264 votes. If I'm correct, well, we look at these results and we decided as a political party to write to INEC to obtain the number 2 copy of Rivers report at the INEC. And when the INEC gave us, we sat down, we looked for a statistician to look at the report and to look at the 458 that are given to our agents. Because our agents can only have at the polling unit and the election can only have a total for the ECA. So when we compare the accreditation of this one and the accreditation report of Rivers, we will discover that there are discrepancies. And how we report this? We have to juxtapose and put each other at a table and look at it one by one. It was there that we discovered that over 113 votes, about 113 votes, 113,112 votes were unlawfully awarded to PDP. So we were marveled at this, but how could this be possible? Well, that's why we decided that we have to challenge this one at the electoral petition. So at the end of the day, when we look at each polling unit one by one, we discovered the differences. Our party discovered that they have actually won the election. If there are not any awarded of votes, of unlawful votes to PDP. Because the electoral act is very clear on this, that the basis of declaration of any result is that the number of accreditation was tallied with the number of votes recorded in that particular election. But we discovered that the number of accreditation did not tally the report declared. So and when we did our own analysis, we discovered that we won with 24,510 votes. So that is why we are challenging the declaration of PDP and Senator Ademola Adelosipe as the winner of that government.
Before I come back to Mr. Abioye, now INEC said that the first CTC BVAS report that you relied on was not the final result, that some data were still hanging, and that it was the second CTC BVAS report that should be relied on the tribunal. How did that also form the basis of your petition, seeing as INEC had made that clarification?
By provision of section 54, subsection 4, 5, and 6 of the Electoral Act 2022, there cannot be a complaint after a declaration has been made. There are certain accreditation results have not been transmitted. The question is that on what basis was the winner declared? If they are saying now that certain things are hanging, certain figures are hanging, then they would have waited on the those things that are hanging dropped.
Yeah, Chief Ogunshola, I was in court. Yeah, Chief Ogunshola.
They are not claiming that they are not synchronized. Their own figures machine. That was the basis of declaration of the result on July 17th, 2022.
All right. Before I come to Mr. Abioye to respond to this, I was in court when the ICT Deputy Director, Oladunjoye, was brought by INEC as a witness, and she said clearly, as I can remember, that your party relied on the Freedom of Information Act and the Electoral Act, which gave INEC 10 days to respond to your request for the BVAS report, and that they gave what they had at the time to you. So does that not speak to the fact that they had made it clear that we're still gathering some things, just have what we have at the moment, we'll give you an update?
The question public will have is that what was the basis for the declaration of the result when they did not have all their people?
All right, so
I think I answered that question.
Okay, so let's hear Mr. Abioye's thoughts.
Well, the most justified aspect of their petition is what we have just spoken about now. What I mean by that is that their strongest point is the issue of forgery, which I have demystified, and which the evidence before the court are suppressed, so they have no way again. You know, as far as the issue of overvoting is concerned, it's like these people, they are just fantasizing. Let me explain to you. Tell me you have a phone, Emmanuel, you have a phone, I have a phone. The three of us are to send information from our respective phones to a central server. Now, after sending our some information from our phones to the respective server, now I want to obtain information from that server. I got some information. Tell me apply to, you got some information different from what I got. I think you get my point. Emmanuel got another information from the server different from what the two of us earlier got. Now, who will claim authenticity? Will tell me say your own is the most authentic? Will I say mine is the most authentic? What will a reasonable man do in the circumstance? Is to go back to our phone directly. What did you send? At what time did you send it? What I'm saying in essence is that you cannot determine overvoting except on the basis of the physical materials that were present and made use of at the polling unit. Election results were declared at the respective polling unit. The materials that were used at the polling unit for the declaration of results were the voters register, the BVAS machine itself, and the electoral forms. Now, from the BVAS machine, accreditation with the BVAS machine and accreditation with the voters register were concurrent. BVAS machine was not independent of the voters register. If you look at the electoral guideline, after your name must have been first checked on the voters register, they will mark it. Then before they mark it, they will use beavers to authenticate, to verify and confirm that yes, it is actually the Ntemi that owns this card and that has come to vote. They will now take your name on the voters register again. What I'm saying is that you cannot establish overvoting except on the basis of the beavers machine itself and the voters register. Now, if the results will be recorded on the form after the counting, after the conclusion of votes, and the results has been announced, they will now pick the accreditation figure from the beavers machine and inscribe it in the form. They will now calculate the votes, what A scored, what B scored, then they declare results. And if there is any issue that the total votes recorded for the parties are more than the number of accredited voters, then the results will go. What I'm saying in essence is that the beavers machine does not need data for capturing of information. But in order to transmit whatever is captured in the beavers machine, it requires data. And if the presiding officer does not press the button, it will not transmit it. But everything that the beavers machine has captured will be on the beavers machine as at the date and time of the election. What I'm saying in essence is that now, when they got their reports, the beavers reports that is admitted as exhibit BVR in court. When they got their reports and they filed their petition, we applied to INEC to got another report from the server. The report they got had, as far as they are concerned, from the report they got, it was over 1,050 something overvoting, false overvoting. But they only extracted 749 and they are coming to court. It's even 750. They claim to be 714. They claim it was 749. It's even 750 they pleaded. That's the truth. Now, when we got our own, there was even the purported overvoting, whatever. From the report from the server, it was about 100 and something polling units where overvoting occurred. That means there was an issue with that. We now approach the tribunal. Tribunal give us an order that we want to investigate the beavers machine itself. We are not dealing with server again. Server was extraneous to the polling unit. The physical material that we used at the polling unit for the vote, we want to use it. And the tribunal gave us an order, go and inspect the beavers machine itself. We inspected the beavers machine itself. We compared what was in the beavers machine with what was contained, what was recorded in the form EC80, which they had, which we had too. Their agent signed it, we signed it too. And the beavers machine, the data from the beavers machine confirmed what was contained in the form EC80, except in 6 polling units. Just 6 polling units that there were overweight, just 6 polling units from the information extracted directly from the beavers machine. Now the issue of best evidence, which we were taught in school, which Mr. Ogunshola too knows, that we are talking about conflicting pieces of evidence before a court. You apply the reasonable man test. What will a reasonable man in the streets do in the circumstance? You got this report from this machine, gave you a different report from what I got, and we applied at different times. You got a separate one, I got a separate one. How do we resolve this? No, what you do is, in the circumstance, investigate the source. The beavers machine is the primary source. All right. And we investigated the beavers machine, which is the primary source. The primary source confirmed that their claim was just a ruse. All right. Let me tell you again. Let me quickly say this. Their certified true copy. Let me just 1 minute, please. Their certified true copy was 27th July, but the receipt of payment was 28th July. Now, the law is that you will be issued certified true copy upon payment. It is payment before issuance, not issuance before payment. I think you get my point. Not issuance before payment. So how possible was that's another angle to it, that their petition is nothing, as is standing on a quicksand which has collapsed.
All right, so Chief Ogushala, please, because of our time, 1 minute to respond to what he has said, and then we wrap it up there.
Well, all of them I feel that my letter friend should go back and read 64, 4, 5, and 6.
I've read it. You have not read it. You can go and read it.
And I come to the conclusion that the matter of fact, the report to back-end finder is very important in the determination of an issue of overpayment in the support side of this case. Also, when he started this particular program, they are not performed. But from all what they are said, it means that they do not have sleep to survey back over this. So that's my response.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'd like to leave it at that because of time, but I'm sure the conversation will continue on radio, River FM 91.7 FM later on in the day. But the tribunal will be making its judgment on a day communicated to all parties. We hope we will be in court on that day, and I'm sure all parties in that suit are expressing confidence. Well, we've been talking to a legal practitioner and chieftain of the People's Democratic Party in Osun State, Mr. Ashim Abioye, who is live with us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
For having me.
And on the other end, on the phone, we've had Chief Adegoke Ogunshola, who is a legal advisor to the All Progressives Congress in Osun State. Thank you so much for joining us on the show too.
Thanks for joining us, sir.
Welcome.
All right, we wish the both of you, let the best arguer, is it arguer now? Let the best respondent or petitioner win in court. I'm sure the tribunal will
exercise. The best evidence
will prevail. Okay, so the tribunal will exercise its discretion and judgment. That will be later on at the discretion of the tribunal. But in the meantime, that's where we end the interview segment this morning. Temi Tokwe will be stepping aside, and I'll be coming back.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.